Okay, I'm gonna show myself so everybody knows I'm here, and I guess we'll get started. I don't want to take up too much time from everyone, so thank you all for joining me today. My name is Leslie Steele. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association and Vice President of the New Jersey Restaurant Educational Foundation. I've been with this organization for going on 9 years. And joining me today is Tom Marilakos, from the CEO of Scopus Hospitality. It's based in Clifton, New Jersey. Tom also serves as a member of the NJRHA Board of Directors and a trustee for the Educational Foundation. And Scopus Hospitality is home to, was it 5 or 6 different restaurants, Tom?
6 going on 7 in a couple months. Yep.
And Tom approached me a few years back about starting an apprenticeship program in his restaurants throughout the North Jersey area, and mostly in Hudson County. And since then, he's partnered with colleges and some ProStart schools to bring the apprenticeship program to life. And he's here with me today to discuss his program and answer any questions that you might have about this apprenticeship program and what it takes to actually incorporate it into your restaurants or hotels. Before we get started on that, we need to talk about the details of the program and what it means to you as a restaurant or hotel employer. And one of the things that I want to highlight before we get started is that apprenticeship is new to our industry in New Jersey, but it's definitely not new. It's been around for probably hundreds of years now. And in fact, in some European countries like Germany, it's actually a requirement for our industry to have chefs be apprentices. So it's definitely something that our industry can do, and it is happening across our country right now. And then again, in Europe, it's been around for hundreds of years in our industry. So with that, so here's today's agenda. So the purpose of this webinar is to teach you about the apprenticeship program and the benefits of the program, how the program works, the scope of the NJRHA apprenticeship program, what it looks like, and the NJRHA is seeking funding with the Department of Labor. So we'll also address the details of that. And finally, we'll hear from Tom and answer any questions that you may have about the program. So we start with the basics. So apprenticeship, in a nutshell, is a workforce development program that concentrates on sector-focused, demand-driven training. It has educational programs that lead to a career pathway. So this is a way to bring a career to someone who doesn't necessarily have those skills that you would look for in, let's say, a chef or a manager. Some key terms that we're going to talk about throughout this process as an apprenticeship partner, or even just in this webinar that everyone should be familiar with, are employer partner, which is the employer who actually hires the apprentice in the partnership with the NJRHA. The intermediary, that is the NJRHA. The intermediary is the person who houses the registered apprenticeship program. They also file all the paperwork for the Department of Labor, and they allow the employer partner to have minimal administrative work. So they handle all of that. So the restaurants and hotels don't have to worry about that. The registered apprentice is the person who's actually enrolled in the program. And this one is the related technical instruction. So all registered apprentices must enroll in a secondary educational program that provides related technical instruction. In short, the related technical instruction encapsulates the skills that the apprentice needs to build a career, but not necessarily can be learned on the job. So for example, a manager apprentice may be required to take a costing course with their local community college to help with the skills they need to be a manager. The work process is the outline of required skills and education that the apprentice will receive in the program. And the work processes were developed by the Department of Labor. They have hundreds of them for every career pathway you could think of. But they can be altered by the employer partner up to 25% so that it meets the unique needs of each establishment. And we'll talk more about that later with Tom. So we got some benefits. So employer benefits of the program are far. So we first want to talk about loyal employees. So if you're training and investing in your employees, obviously they're going to be more loyal. It develops a pipeline of skilled workforce, for the future. So if you're developing and training all of these people throughout our state, then obviously everyone in our industry has a better workforce to choose from. It can reduce turnover and training costs. So countless studies have shown that employees tend to stay where they are if they feel valued and the company invests in them. So an apprentice is more likely to stay with the company who hired them. Along with the Gaines grant, there are tons of other micro grant companies can apply for. Like micro grants are, Tom can jump in on this because I know that you know way more about it than I do, but they are, I believe, county, state, and federal grants that employers can apply for to help offset the costs of training the apprentice. Is that right, Tom?
Correct. There's particularly with the Department of Labor, there are some federal grants that are available, and as they start to come through and we have more participant restaurant partners participating in this, we're happy to share some more of that information.
Mm-hmm. And then, so there's also a direct partnership with colleges that are providing the skills and education that the employee needs. And this is great because it gives you a giant pool of potential apprentices and employees who are ready to work in the industry and they're already enrolled in a program for it. By participating in this program, you're directly impacting the community. It has tremendous benefits for your business. Investing in the community and the workforce is great for driving business and skilled workers, but we all know that. And the process for apprenticeship is no different from the standard hiring process. So you select the apprentice, you hire the apprentice, you come to the agreement with the apprentice, and if it's not working out, you do have the right to terminate the apprentice. Just because they're enrolled in the apprenticeship program does not mean that you're stuck with someone who it's not working out with. And one of the most, I think, important aspects of this program is that it provides the only required education and skill sets that employers need to do the job. So basically, these students don't have to get a 4-year degree and take on $120,000 of debt to do this program. They only take the required education for the job. So that means that if they're not $130,000 in student loan debt and they're already working for you and they're being paid a living wage with you, they're not going to look for a higher paying job or bounce around from job to job. They're more likely to stay with you because of that and build that loyalty. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of this program. So how does it work? So the way that it works is, and this is what I'm working on right now, the NJRHA develops and registers as a Department of Labor registered apprenticeship program. I'm looking to be approved on this program in spring of 2022. I'm working right now with the Federal Department of Labor to actually build the program and submit all of the required paperwork for it. And then the NJRHA restaurant and hotel members are employer partners of the program. So that means that, again, going back to our terminology, you would be eligible to hire apprentices in your restaurants and hotels and train them. And then, again, we're the intermediary. We handle all the paperwork for the program so that you only need to provide the apprentice the training and employment and mentorship that they need to move forward in your business. And it's like 1 or 2 papers that the employer partner has to sign that basically says, hey, I'm an employer partner of this registered apprenticeship program with the Restaurant Association. Employer partners work with the NJRHA and the Department of Labor to adjust those work processes that we can alter up to 25%. And each employer partner in this can alter. It's not like we have one that's set in stone and everybody has to follow it. The apprentice must enroll in a related technical instruction program at one of our partner colleges for the career pathway that they chose. So we have right now, Hudson County College is on board as a partner, as well as Mercer County College. We're working with Brookdale College and Ocean County College, and also the Rowan University at Burlington campus college as well. And those are right now our college partners, but we're looking for more and open to more. So if you are in an area that doesn't have these college partners, let me know, reach out. I'd be happy to meet with your local community college to talk to them about doing this program with us. The program has to have at least 144 touch point hours, which are different from credit hours. It's like a typical, and this is what I heard from my friends at Hudson County College, it's like the typical amount of hours that most culinary certificates require. So most colleges who offer a culinary program should hit that 144 hours with no problem. And if they don't, that's where the NJRHA could step in and help with the educational opportunities that we have through the National Restaurant Association. And then finally, the employer partner begins the program by providing the training and the work process steps that allow the apprentice to learn and advance within the establishment with a wage progression. Now, I do want to talk about the wage progression a little bit because I know it kind of scares people. So to be an official apprenticeship partner, you have to provide the apprentice with a wage increase once they master a certain set of skills. And it's 100% up to the employer to decide how much the increase will be and when it will take place, but it has to be there. So that means if you wanted to give the apprentice $1 raise when they master a certain amount of skills, that's fine. If you want to give them a 10-cent raise, that's fine. It's completely up to the employer what that looks like. And the NJRHA would be happy to work with you on that. So this is our program. There's 2 tracks, chef de partie, I hope I'm saying that correctly, I'm not French, and that's for back of house. And then after meeting with restaurant board members, as well as people who are interested in the program, we also decided to develop a front of house apprenticeship program, and that would be the restaurant manager track. So both tracks include Serve Safe Food Manager, Serve Safe Alcohol, Serve Safe Allergen, sexual harassment training, and then the new Serve Success Food Service Professional Certification. And these are all through the new National Restaurant Association. Then for the management track, because it's more front of house and you're going to be dealing with a lot more people, customers, servers, things like that, we have unconscious bias training, customer service training, and then Serve Success Food Service Supervisor Certification, because they will be moving into a more managerial role. So where do the apprentices come from? There's an apprenticeship pipeline that we thought about here, and it's pretty simple, and it gives the employer a lot of power here. So you can pick current employees who are already working for you that want to build a career in this industry. You want to keep them around, you have faith in them, they can absolutely be an apprentice. Then we also have the current college students that are enrolled in our partner colleges. These students are always looking for opportunities like this, so you definitely have that as a pipeline. People who you interview and hire. So if you're just interviewing and hiring people and you come across someone who you think is a perfect fit for this program, you absolutely can add them to the program. And then finally, our ProStart students. ProStart students are great candidates for this program just because they're already learning college level culinary arts and restaurant management in high school. And they're ready to move into that career pathway, and they haven't yet enrolled in any colleges. Another thing that I want to touch on here is that there's this phenomenon in New Jersey where we don't have 4-year culinary schools. So what happens is a lot of students who are interested in this industry move out of state to go to 4-year culinary schools, but then they don't come back. And then so what happens is our pipeline of a skilled workforce is diminished because some of these students who could be staying in state and learning the skills through an apprenticeship program or at our local community colleges instead are moving to New York and Rhode Island and Florida and places where there's a 4-year culinary program. So this kind of answers that need. So then we have the Gaines Grant. This is what we're actually applying for at the NJRHA, where our employer partners will be a part of this. It stands for the Growing Apprenticeship in Non-Traditional Sectors Grant. The employer to be a part of this grant must pay at least $16 an hour to qualify for funding, and there's also that wage progression there as well. Now, just to stop right there, if you wanted to be a part of our apprenticeship program, but let's say you were a little on the fence about starting a wage at $16 an hour, you absolutely still could have an apprenticeship program. You just won't qualify to be an employer partner on the Gaines Grant. We'll still take you as an apprenticeship. It's totally fine. It's just that you won't be eligible to participate in the Gaines Grant. So the NJRHA is the intermediary, and we're going to apply on behalf of all of the NJRHA employer partners. The funding issued through this grant is going to cover the cost of tuition at partner colleges, and remaining funds will be issued to the employer partners to help cover the cost of payroll for the apprentice. So At this point in time, I'm not really sure what that would look like on the employer's end to help cover costs of payroll, because we haven't finalized budgets for colleges. But I will tell you, there's some great things happening with the college aspect of this. Students still apply, they can still apply for financial aid, and they're still eligible for financial aid. They can also receive, I forget what it's called, but there's this a free college grant in New Jersey for anyone who makes less than $60,000 a year to go to a community college. So pretty much everyone who is enrolled as an apprentice in this program qualifies for that grant. So I'm pretty confident that the majority of the funding we get from this grant will go to the employer partner to cover payroll. So then the NJRHA works with colleges, Department of Labor, and employer partners, and we handle all the admin work so that you guys can focus on your business needs. And the application, unfortunately, is due this week, so I'm going to be very crazy. So I hope I didn't move too fast, but now we have Q&A time. So if there are any questions that come up, feel free to ask them. I have Tom again with me here at this webinar, and I did outline some general questions that I wanted to kind of go over with Tom before we actually start the Q&A process. So Tom, can you start by explaining the work process and how you altered it to meet the needs in your restaurants?
Absolutely. Actually, before that, I just want to highlight the apprenticeship program. This took a long time for us to put together, as Leslie mentioned, and the word apprentice is really scary. I think, as Leslie mentioned, this is a European concept. And when I first heard apprentice, I thought blacksmith, carpenter, a lot of construction trades. So I almost look at this as an educational supplement to an internship program. And it's really a benefit to first off attracting, but then retaining employees, as Leslie mentioned. So the work process aspect, and there's a lot of confusing terminology here, but really what the work process is just a detailed outline or guideline to help both the employer and the apprentice stay on track. And really what we've done is we use an existing, already approved Department of Labor work process guideline. And there's two different types of pathways you can do. You can go time-based or competency-based. And we really wanted to go the competency-based pathway, which is a very thorough list that shows all the educational aspects and all of the technical aspects of the job. So speaking to back of house, learning knife skills, learning how to work on different equipment. And it's really just a giant checklist, which we thought was really clear and concise. And being that the DOL, Department of Labor, already approved this was something that a previous hospitality group has used, so has found success with. So as Leslie said, you can alter these up to 25%. Our goal is to alter it as little as possible. And some examples of alteration, for example, we don't have a strong baking component at all of our restaurants, but we do have pizza. So we altered the baking component of the work process to match more of our standards of pizza rather than baking breads, for example. So again, we've really tried to limit how much we edit it, but 25% of that you can edit. And one thing about the competency-based guidelines, so if you're going from a time-based, that is a clear start and end for when the employee starts or the apprentice starts the educational and the work process. What we liked about competency-based is that if somebody is more skilled, because you're going to have a wide range of individuals apply here, some that have no experience and some that maybe have several years of experience. You want to kind of create some flexibility there. So if it's competency-based and you have a highly skilled apprentice, they might be able to move through this program a little bit faster. There is a limit because they still have to take the educational classes. So if it's a 6-month educational course, but they can finish the work process in 3 months, they're still going to take 6 months to go through this program. Conversely, if somebody is very green, very fresh, and it takes them a year to go through this, but they can do the educational component, it gives that flexibility there. And then as they complete this apprenticeship program, they can continue taking college courses, but they're an employee that has that wage scale that Leslie mentioned. So ideally, in our eyes, they're on a management track. And a lot of these individuals we're pulling from vocational schools, and we have co-op programs where we have some students coming in. So we're building that pipeline of a quote unquote pre-apprenticeship program. And I don't want to confuse everybody with the pre-apprenticeship into the apprenticeship program, but it really creates a nice guideline, a nice pipeline for individuals moving through that. I was going to go through a couple of these questions listed here, and then of course happy to answer any other questions. So with respect to apprentices that we're working with right now, we just received approval on our own apprenticeship program that we have with Hudson County Community College about a month ago. And as everybody's experiencing, there's some challenges here in the market because of the most recent COVID strain that is causing disruption not only to our restaurants but to schools as well. So our goal is in February or March to bring on our first apprentices. We do have some pre-apprentices that I mentioned from vocational and technical high schools that are working in our restaurants. These are paid jobs and they're supervised by the school. So we have some support system there. But we are working with existing team members, as Leslie mentioned, and working with the pipelines at the colleges and the vocational high schools. In terms of challenges, the biggest thing is really just dealing with the COVID challenges that all of us are going through right now. A lot of the schools have gone remote, so we had job shadowing, we had some of these onboarding challenges that we're facing are getting us. We're finding some delays there from that standpoint. So, Leslie, I hope I went through these as well as you hope, but happy to answer any questions from those in attendance.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I don't see right now any questions in the chat box, but we can give everyone a few minutes. But I do want to, while everyone's thinking about questions, I want to go to the next slide, because if you're interested in becoming an employer partner, this is what we need from you to get that process rolling. And this is for the Gaines grant, and then also to submit to the Department of Labor for the actual apprenticeship program. And we do have a question in the chat box. How could we guide the guidance counselors as a driver to guide students from schools to trades? Well, I think, Steve, what this starts with is getting the apprenticeship program up and running, and then having a few apprentices from the ProStart program in the program so that guidance counselors can actually see the pathway. They have to see the pathway before I think we can actually start guiding guidance counselors to this.
And if I could jump in there, what we've done, and one of the vocational schools we're working with is Passaic County Tech. And what we've really found is more so than the guidance counselors, because they have a huge support system in there. And we're working with some of the school to career coordinators within those schools. My belief is getting to the parents. So we've done two things, as I alluded to before. One is job shadowing. So these students in high school will come tour the restaurants, front and back of house, to really see what it's like. And we've gone to these schools with a lot of our location-specific leaders to talk to students about a career pathway. So first getting in their ears and talking to the students directly, but then getting the parents on board, because I think in our industry, particularly during COVID, it's gotten a little bit of a negative reputation for being on your feet, low pay, long hours. And some of those things are just part of the business of being on your feet. And it's some people don't want to be behind a desk, quite frankly. So it's a career pathway for certain individuals, but getting the parents, so when they're at home, to feed in their ears and saying, hey, this is a really great opportunity that you can have a career pathway, be debt-free, and on a management track by the time you graduate, and on track for an associate's degree that costs you nothing. Those are some real talking points that when I was 18 years old, I was thinking about my girlfriend, not thinking about my career pathway. So for parents to really understand that and provide that support and encouragement, I think is as key as the support systems within the schools.
What does your apprenticeship look like in terms of, I guess, like mentoring time? Because I know that it gets hectic in kitchens and during open hours. So if you could just touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So because this can be very intimidating. I just want to reiterate that. I was very overwhelmed when I first started to hear all these terms and try to make sense of all of this. So if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, know that that's totally normal. And I went through that. There's a lot of terminology, and I think Leslie and I can work on a document that kind of lays this out for everybody. And Leslie, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. There was a question again.
If you could just touch on the mentoring aspect of how much time
Absolutely.
that kid takes, and who you would delegate that to within your concepts.
Yeah, so we started with a back of house approach because that was the most immediate need for us, and where there was a lot of the work processes that have already existed and been utilized by the DOL. And it depends on the agreement that you have. So for us with Hudson County Community College, we have a 1-to-1 ratio, which means there's one mentor to one student. I believe, and don't quote me on this, but you can go as far as 3-to-1. But we really wanted to make sure we had success with one individual at each location before we really expanded this program. So to Leslie's question, it's usually a management level team member. So whether that's a sous chef or executive sous or an executive chef, that really provides some support, and it's one-on-one guidance. It doesn't mean that you have to allocate all your time and energy to holding somebody's hand. There is some guidelines and guide work, but just somebody that they know is really helping them one-on-one. And again, a lot of these schools, not only do they want to, but it's required that they come in and supervise and check. So if somebody's underperforming or overperforming, and we've had both in our experience, we've spoken to the individual, but also to the administration at the school and their support system to really give them some encouragement and help them through that process. So again, I don't want it to seem that you have to take your sous chef and they have to be holding somebody's hand and not focusing on their day-to-day tasks. It's really more of it's a training program, really, that has some structure to it.
That actually brings a really good point, and I lost my train of thought because now I'm looking at the chat box. So we'll answer that question first. So the question is, how far will students travel to their apprenticeship position, and does the program work with Southern New Jersey area VOTEX and high schools? And it absolutely does. So at this point, as an employer partner, you would hire the apprentice just like you would hire a normal employee. So if you already, let's say you're a South Jersey restaurant and you already have someone in mind for this career pathway that's in your restaurant, you can take that person and just shape them that way. And that's my thought. And it actually ties to this. Mercer County College and I were in deep conversation about actually making a remote hybrid program for this, so that it doesn't matter where you are in the state, you can be enrolled at Mercer County College for this program and get your related technical instruction online. And the biggest blessing of all with that is that going back to the slide where we talked about the different certifications the apprentice would have, all of those are online and available through the National Restaurant Association. So essentially the way that this program would work for my South Jersey people would be, and I know Atlantic Cape has a great program, we could definitely partner with them for in-person related technical instruction. But for those guys that are all the way in Salem County, that might not work well because that's a long drive. They would have the option to do the remote or hybrid course at Mercer County College, which may require them to go and do a lab maybe once every couple of months, which is a lot better than having to go to the school every day.
And to add to that, Leslie, we have restaurants in Hudson, Essex, Bergen, and Passaic County. So really, we're trying to make specific programs with the county colleges. So for our restaurants in Passaic County, we're really trying to partner with Passaic County technical schools and Passaic County colleges. Now, as an example, Essex County Community College does not have a culinary program. So that in that case, we can send students to Passaic County or Hudson if it's convenient for them, because some students might live out of county or on the edge of a county from that standpoint. So there is some limitations depending on just from an in-person perspective, and what Leslie presented is I think is really important for when the distance is too far for the student. But those, for example, in Essex County can go to Hudson County or Passaic County campuses if they want to participate in this program in person. So having the remote is also another opportunity there.
One of the things I want to touch on with the related technical instruction also is that I just want to play like a little scenario game. Let's say you have an apprentice in your restaurant or hotel and they stop going to class. So what that means is, because they have to be enrolled in a related technical instruction program, is once that happens and the school says, hey, Les, John Smith hasn't been to class all semester, they would be dropped from the apprenticeship program. But that does not mean that you have to drop them as an employee. It just means they are no longer a part of the apprenticeship program. So it would be, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the option of the employer. Everything is up to the employer, whether or not they want to keep someone who left the related technical instruction, if they're underperforming, or anything in that matter. Tom, if you can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're talking about pre-apprenticeship, which we won't get into today, there's a little bit more restriction, but it is at will. And Leslie and I both had conversations with the Department of Labor directly that they also mention this. So if somebody's not working out, you can part ways. There may be some restrictions when you participate in the grant program in terms of the success rate of individuals in completion. And Leslie can confirm that as we start to get the application submitted and approved. But just for here and now, it is at will. So if an individual, again, is just not quite into the program, you do not have to keep them, and you can start fresh with the apprenticeship program. That being said, one thing that we worked with our educational partners is to really make sure we have a thorough system for making sure that these individuals want to participate. And that's where I go back to the job shadowing, bringing them into the kitchen, speaking to them at the schools, really being realistic about what a career in hospitality is and what it can be. So you want to get them excited, but you also don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, because those that are in, for example, culinary schools, they're working on state-of-the-art equipment in a very calm setting. And as you get to an actual restaurant, it may not translate exactly. So you don't want to have them with a unrealistic expectation, and then they come on board and 2 weeks later they don't end up succeeding, because that's not a good use of anybody's time, as everybody's, I'm sure, well aware there. So we really want to make sure that we build that pipeline and speak to these students and make sure they understand what they're getting into.
One last touch point with the related technical instruction. All of the colleges I spoke with have also agreed that the apprentices in the program will have the opportunity to earn college credit toward that associate's degree as well. So once they finish that related technical instruction component for this program, if they did want to continue their education further, that is definitely an option. Every college I've spoke with has said that they would get college credit for the related technical instruction that they can then use toward an associate's degree.
Yeah, it's important, Leslie. And big picture, again, I've been talking about maybe some things beyond the scope here, but the ultimate goal for us at Scopos is to bring awareness and having other restaurant groups partner with us on this, because this isn't a restaurant versus restaurant hiring situation. This is about changing the hiring process within hospitality. And the more of us that participate and succeed here, we can really change the reputation of hospitality, make it a viable career pathway for individuals. So it's really important for us to continue to participate collectively from that standpoint. So we really want to make sure that we make this an easy process for everybody. Again, some hoops to jump through. But when it comes to the credit standpoint, the ultimate goal for us is to bring on individuals in vocational high schools and career technical educational programs, and then feed that pipeline into the apprenticeship program. And then these individuals can continue pursuing the associate's degree. And we've worked with the Passaic County Community College, and we're going to share this information with some of the other colleges. And I'm going to share this with Leslie as well. But there's what's called an articulation agreement between the high school and the college. And we just had Passaic County Community College approve a articulation agreement that for those individuals that we have in the high school that are working at a restaurant and they're being paid, as I mentioned, still going to high school, they're going to actually get up to 12 credits before they even enter the apprenticeship program, just by working with us and following the ProStart curriculum. And then, as Leslie mentioned, these certificate programs provide additional credits. So by the time they're out of this program, they may be halfway to an associate's degree for free. and they have money in their pocket, and we know who we're working with, and we've developed them within our own pipeline. And again, as Leslie mentioned, there's some additional funding opportunities. The goal is that they get a free associate's degree and are on that management track, debt-free. And again, these are individuals in this situation at maybe 18, 20, 21 years old, which typically it was, as Leslie said, you're 22, 23 years old with $100,000 in debt from a big time culinary school. And then you're going from place to place for 50 cents, 75 cents more, trying to pay off that debt. You burn out, you crash, and then you're really behind the eight ball there. So this is an opportunity to really build a strong foundation. It's not this panacea that's going to cure the hiring crisis next week, but this is a long-term approach that if we all work together, can really build a strong and robust talent pipeline, not just back of house, but really throughout the organization. And that's one thing. And then I'll stop talking here. Is we talk about career pathways in hospitality, and it's front of house and back of house, of course. But in our organization, we have creative directors that are designing restaurants in house. We have sales and private events, marketing and advertising, finance. There are 6 or 7 really strong career pathways that if you have an individual that is in the door, say back of house, and exposed to the entirety of the restaurant, and they say, you know what, I just don't like working in a kitchen for whatever reason. But you know what, I like that events position. They can then transition into a different role within your organization. So you don't lose them, but getting them in the door and really creating exposure to the student and ideally the parent, as I mentioned, can show them that this is a little less risky than going into an apprenticeship program in a different industry where it really is one career pathway. And I think that's an important thing to consider as well.
That's a really good talking point. And to add to that, just so everyone from all these different types of organizations that are on this call know that there's hundreds of different apprenticeship program work processes that you can pick from. So if you have a hotel and you want to have a hotel management apprentice, we can do that. We're starting small just because we only have this week to submit this gains grant. But that being said, the way that the grant is written is you can alter it as you develop your program. So if there's a certain position that you think would be best for your business in terms of apprenticeship, we definitely can work with you and look at some work processes with the Department of Labor to figure out what that would look like. We have one more question. So by applying for the grant and enrolling someone in the apprenticeship program, that's how the cost of technical instruction credits and certs are covered. All right. So yes, the NJRHA will be the intermediary. So that means we are applying for this grant. And what we, as an intermediary, our job is to handle all of that paperwork. We work with the New Jersey Department of Labor and the Federal Department of Labor for this program. Then the person, the apprentice that you choose for this program would then enroll at their local community college, wherever that may be, or remotely with Mercer County College. They would apply for financial aid just like a normal college student would. They would first expend all of those different funding opportunities that they have as a college student before they would get the apprenticeship funds kicking in to cover that tuition. And that would include everything from, like, if they're in a culinary program, the chef coats they have to purchase, the knife kits they have to purchase, all of that would be covered through the apprenticeship program, because I believe that for most colleges, those additional fees aren't covered by financial aid. So we would help with that. So basically they would go to school for free. And then any remaining funds from this grant would then go to the employer to help with payroll costs. So again, going back to the beginning of our slideshow, we talked about how the gains grant is, the requirement is $16 an hour plus a wage progression. That would be offset with the funds from this grant. And so I was advised by the Department of Labor to start small with this program. So right now, as it stands, I would like to have 30 apprentices across the state throughout our member restaurants. So right now I'm looking at 30 apprentices, and I believe, and this isn't set in stone, but I believe our budget would be about $8,000 per apprentice. And again, most of that funding would probably go to the hotel or restaurant to offset the employment costs.
And I just want to speak briefly to the wage progression as well. And I'm not sure what the southern part of the state, what the market is like, but in northern New Jersey, it's very, very competitive. And to be quite honest, we're not paying anybody less than $16 an hour back of house. So we look at this as just a career pipeline method. And the grant funding is an additional boost. And just to reiterate, the wage progression, you can make it whatever you want. We've decided that every 25% of completion of the work processing and the educational component, the related technical instruction, we're going to give $1 an hour raise, because we feel that when we look at this entire curriculum, if we have somebody that can accomplish all of the skills in the work process, the competency-based work process, we have a very valuable individual within the organization, somebody that we would pay $18, $20 an hour. So we're not trying to look, at least just to be completely honest from Scopus's perspective, to necessarily get free labor from that standpoint. But if we can find some subsidies, we're of course going to take advantage of it as any other individual business would. So as Leslie said, we can map all of this out in terms of the opportunities to save from that standpoint and use the funding that's available. But I did want to reiterate that, at least from our perspective, it's bringing on an individual at market. And if we can save, that's great. But it's really about a benefit to them and a long-term partnership. And I'd rather have somebody that at $20, $22 an hour that is a very effective team member that can accomplish the work of maybe two $15 an hour team members from that standpoint. So trying to build some efficiencies there.
Right. And they're loyal and they're shaped and molded into exactly what you need, because you are the one that shaped them.
Exactly.
So, and then I think no one has really asked any other questions, so I'm going to end it right here. But I also want to just let everyone know that when I say apprenticeship is behind in the U.S., it's really behind in Jersey. Other states, other state restaurant associations already have these apprenticeship programs up and running throughout the country. Delaware, I think, is our closest partner that actually has a really robust program. So now we just need to get on board here in New Jersey. I know we're always kind of like the last to act. So I'm hoping that if you are interested, please just shoot me an email with your business name, address, EIN number, contact name, contact phone number, and email. And then again, how many apprentices you think that you could handle within either one facility or however many facilities you did want to do this program in. And then I just want to thank everyone for coming. Tom, if you have any final thoughts to add before we let everyone go.
The only thing is, Leslie, if you want to share my direct contact information with all the members, I'm happy to answer any questions. This is a lot to absorb, and other restaurant partners that might have specific questions from an operational perspective. I'm happy
Tom,
to answer.
Do you want to type your information in the chat box? That way everyone can see it?
Sure. Yep.
Awesome.
So I just put my email in there. So please reach out anytime. Happy to answer any questions that I'm able to. I can't reiterate enough how overwhelming this was when I first looked at it. So we really want to make sure everybody understands what the commitments are and what the benefits are of a program like this.
Thank you, everyone. Again, feel free to reach out to me or Tom with any questions. And if you are interested, please send me that information as soon as you can. Thank you.